Hey folks, this is Kelani. Welcome back to another video where, yes, indeed, there is a face once again. Don't panic, it's fine. Although last time we did this, you guys did complain a little bit about something to do with sync. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think it's doing pretty fine the way it is. I think we're good on the whole sync thing, you know. So, there were a few things I wanted to touch on in this video. The first being that things aren't going too well for our good friend, the world of Warcraft. I mean, things aren't super bad, obviously, because we're still playing, we're still making videos, so things obviously aren't, you know, doomsday bad, so that's fine, but things are getting a little slow at the moment, which is a little strange because we just had a new raid. Now, that doesn't last forever, obviously. I mean, they're looking for raid. Final Wing isn't even out yet, so I understand that some people will be still waiting for that and haven't fully experienced the raid, but for me personally, it's kind of already gotten down to the point where we're kind of just logging in for raid, which is part of the problem where almost the only new content that we actually got recently was that new raid, which doesn't help with that fact all too much, because we were in that kind of situation for a little while in Uldia already, you know, where a lot of people just log in for raids, and that's perfectly fine, but that doesn't really give you a lot else to do when you're only raiding, say, 1, 2, 3 days a week. Personally, I'm down to 2 days at this point. The first week and the second week were a little busier for raiding, as you might expect, the first week being the first week of normal and heroic, so we absolutely endeavored to get Jaina heroic done that very first week, and then the second week is the first week of mythic, so that's all new, it's all exciting, and you know, there's a lot of motivation there. As we get past that, things tend to dwindle a little bit, so we're down to 2 raid days a week, which, you know, is perfectly fine. But outside of those raid days, I'm honestly not getting much done. There isn't a lot of motivation to really get in there and do some of the other various parts of content. Now, don't tell Helides, okay? I know some of you from the guild are watching. Don't tell Helides, but we haven't really been doing a great deal of the things we should have been doing. But honestly, there isn't a great deal of reason to do them, like the island expeditions. We haven't done those in a while. World quests are getting left behind. Emissaries are trailing a little bit as well. It's just not all that exciting to get done. So right now, honestly, WoW for me and for my wife is pretty much the 2 raid days, and then we do a few dungeons. We always make sure to get at least 1 10 key done per week, because I feel like that is still something very much worth doing. If you don't get that done, you're losing out week after week after week, not only just with the item level of the reward in your cache, but also with the residuum, because if you don't get that weekly residuum, then you're not going to be able to buy the Azerite pieces you want, which is going to be fairly important. But the main reason for that, honestly, is that the other content available in BFA just doesn't tickle my fancy right now. We've got islands, sure, not all that fun. We've got warfronts, sure, do them once whenever they come up so we get that free piece of item level loot, but honestly my main is getting past the point where it even needs that. So after that, I probably won't run warfronts either. The other bits and pieces are kind of the same deal we had from Legion. You've got your world quests, you've got your weekly events, so you know, when that's worth it and when that's an event that I actually have fun with, sure, I'll pop on, do that. But apart from that, there really isn't much else to really invigorate me right now. There's no motivation to get most of that done because it's kind of meh. But part of that might actually just be Battle for Azeroth, because there is a very stark difference, I would say, between the start of BFA and the start of Legion. Coming off Legion is going to be a lot harder when compared to coming off something like Warlords of Draenor, and for the next expansion, actually, I think coming off of BFA, I think that'll be received a lot better, simply because BFA was received kind of a lot worse. You know, that gives you a lower bar to kind of improve from, instead of, you know, we had Legion, it was very well received, it was a very successful expansion, and then you kind of expect more of that high bar, and when you don't get it, it's a lot more disappointing, even though we would probably have fallen in love with BFA. Everybody would have enjoyed BFA, I think, if it came straight after Warlords, because we were kind of in that rut, you know, we were already complaining at that point. But a big problem, I think, with BFA is that the setup isn't that great. We've got a faction conflict coming off of the Legion invasion. It's a real big problem, I think, with power creep, and this is something that a lot of different series and a lot of different types of entertainment struggle with. It's like the hero has to go against this big bad, but when he destroys that big bad or overcomes these challenges, you kind of have to keep going from there, and it's a case of power creep. It's like, where do you go from the Legion You certainly don't go back to fighting amongst yourselves, but one of the big parts of that was supposed to be Azerite, right? We're all fighting over Azerite because it's going to be the next generation of warfare. Azerite is supposed to be this huge thing. Its powers of creation and destruction are unrivaled from what we've seen so far. And then we don't do anything with it. We do very little with Azerite besides stuff it in our heart amulet and kind of hope it does something special. Hopefully that's going to improve with 8.2 and a stronger focus on the Heart of Azeroth and Magni, but right now Azerite really kind of just took a back seat, even though it's supposed to be this ever-present major thing in Battle for Azeroth, and we kind of haven't done anything with it. We've seen some war engines, sure, but we personally haven't been like, alright guys, let's make a huge Azerite bomb and then drop it on an alliance city, because, you know, that seems like the best thing to do right now if we're in a faction conflict, but oh well. But that's not to say, you know, that I'm not having fun in BFA at all. I still have fun with my guild raids. I'm really enjoying the new guild that we joined, and it is a little bit weird when they come back to me and complain about some of the things that I said in my video alluding to them. We're not behind the curve, guys. Sorry I said that. It's fine. We killed Opulence. We're doing good, especially for a 2-day guild. But I'm having a blast on that front. It's just a shame that there aren't more activities to do in-game that I'm motivated to do, I guess. So that's part on me, obviously. There are things to do. I'm just a little distracted right now with some other stuff which I find more enjoyable. But we do the raids, we do some dungeons. That's kind of us for now in BFA. I am hoping that that's going to change a little bit going forward, and I will get that motivation to do a little bit more, but I think that's going to be in the second half of BFA, with everything changing from the faction conflict to a bit of a better story, in my opinion. So we've got the Crucible of Storms raid coming very soon, which is the first doorway, I would say, going to the Void, and everything that kind of leads up to that and goes with that. So we're going down to Nazjatar to deal with a lot of Naga trouble, which will lead on hopefully to something a little bit bigger than ourselves. And I think that's where the story is kind of going to shift, and a lot more attention will be on World of Warcraft. I think it's been a little bit lackluster recently because, again, we went from a Legion invasion and stopping this diabolical event to fighting amongst ourselves, but as soon as that faction conflict takes a backseat again, which it's going to, then I think things might get a little more interesting, which is also kind of disappointing because all of this time with the faction conflict ultimately isn't really going to mean much depending on how the story is told, because the faction conflict is going to take that back seat. There's no question about that. We're going to go ahead and find our greater enemy where we have to work together for the greater good. And that's going to happen. There's almost no way that doesn't happen at this point, so it kind of makes you question why we went through the whole faction conflict in the first place, and whether it's just to get rid of Sylvanas, because that's kind of how it's looking right now. But we'll see how things pan out. She might get a redemption arc, she might do God knows what. I have no idea where that is really going on the Sylvanas front. I'm not too sure how that's going to be resolved, and I don't know if it's going to have a fulfilling resolution before we get to the point where we're having to combine forces again to fight off Nazjatar and Azshara and, you know, all this stuff going into the Void. Because I don't imagine we're going into the Void as a splintered faction. I imagine we'll be fighting the Void together as we did with the Legion. But again, it kind of makes you question what the whole point was. As for the Crucible of Storms raid, I'm hoping that's going to do a good job of telling the story, because I don't really think it's going to do much else. Smaller raids are pretty good for a break. You know, long raids are really nice most of the time, but when you get these smaller raids, it can either go one way or the other, because if it's pieced together really well, then it can be a case of, oh, that was an amazing raid, it's a shame we didn't have more. But if it's not pieced together well, and especially with the case of Crucible of Storms, where the item level difference is nothing. It's got the same item levels as the Battle of Desert Allure right now, so we'll kind of see how that goes, because a lot of them do have special effects. But if those special effects don't do anything, you know, if the secondary stats that they're missing is actually better than the effect itself, nobody's going to do the raid. They'll do it once or twice, maybe once or twice again to get quests done and get people caught up. But if the loot isn't good and it's the same item level as what we're already getting, you're not going to find a lot of people running it after they've already completed the story quests that they have for it. But the good thing about the Crucible of Storms is that I feel they're using it as a tool to tell the story a bit better, which, again, might be hit or miss, because what we've got right now with the raids telling the story is we're waiting for LFR. Right, we're waiting for the Looking for Raid to finish coming out before we can finish the current part of the story, even though I've killed Jaina. Well, not killed Jaina, fine, someone pointed it out. We haven't killed Jaina, but we've defeated Jaina several times already, and that kind of would have been our personal story being progressed, but we're waiting for Looking for Raid because the story is being told through Looking for Raid, and we can't really do anything until everybody has seen the story, and the only way for that to happen is to get, the freebie story in Looking for Raid. I don't know if telling a story through a raid works all that well, especially compared to questlines and cinematics specifically. I think cinematics are probably the thing that I miss the most. It is pretty disappointing going through a whole raid and not getting a cinematic at the end when you defeated the big boss of the raid and pushed things forward, but we'll see how things go. The Crucible of Storms might have some cinematics to help tell the story a bit better, but I'm a little worried about its loot. But going forward, I do think that heading down to Nazjatar is going to be the change that we need to get a lot more people interested in the World of Warcraft again, because that change of pace, that change of story, again from the faction conflict to the greater good, is where a lot of the best stories happen in World of Warcraft. So going down to Nazjatar and especially seeing Azshara and finally tying up that loose end, gosh, that's been going on for a long time now. I think she might be one of the only bad guys, one of the big bad guys still left over from the Warcraft 3 times, which is really interesting. We might finally tie up that loose end even though she's been teased for a very long time at this point. But we go down to Nazjatar and things should hopefully change, and we got a huge change of scenarios. It will be in a completely different environment, so that might be what really gets people back to WoW. Hopefully at that point things should just ramp up further, because we'll be dealing with the Void after that. There's no way that we kind of go down to Nazjatar and then come back up to Zuldazar and Kul Tiras and be like, hey, that was cool, now let's go fight each other again. I don't see that happening. So after that we probably have to deal with N'Zoth indirectly or directly, and then we'll kind of move on into what might be the Void section of this expansion, and the last patch might be relating to the Void, or we'll be moving on to a Void-based expansion, because that's probably where things are going to go from here. The end of BFA could be either really good or really bad depending on where we go and how they decide to do it, but even if BFA doesn't do that well towards the end, I think what's really going to matter is the next expansion, because there's this idea of TikTok expansions, of filler expansions, where you have one really good one, which has been worked on for a very long time, and then you kind of have one which fills in the gaps, and it hasn't had that much work put into it, but it's kind of there to bridge the gap between these two really good expansions. So it's tick, chalk, tick, chalk. And if you look back through the expansions that we've had, Legion was really good. Warlords of Draenor not so much. Mists of Pandaria, after a shaky start, was considered to be one of the best expansions. Cataclysm, not so much. Wrath of the Lich King, back in its day, was the height of World of Warcraft. That was its peak, and that was, by and large, a huge success. So you've got this really interesting TikTok already with WoW expansions, but that puts BFA at a talk. That puts BFA as a bad expansion, a bridge expansion, a filler expansion, which, you can maybe kind of see. So the point here is that Legion was really good, BFA might be just there to pass the time. The next expansion could have had a lot more work put into it, and that might be our next big thing. Obviously, it doesn't help much just saying, BFA isn't that great, let's just wait until the next expansion, that's going to be fantastic, that's where World of Warcraft is really going to shine again. Not really all that ideal when, we're kind of in BFA right now and we want to actually have fun. But what I'm saying is that the end of BFA should hopefully be more fun as that big picture comes into play with Nazjatar and then the Void, and then going into next expansion, if they set it up properly, we could see a huge resurgence for World of Warcraft, I think. As I said earlier too, BFA had a harder job coming after Legion because Legion was so successful. If BFA isn't received all too well even towards the end, the next expansion kind of has a lower bar to get over to be considered better than BFA, and at that point I think a lot of people will be much happier. But for now, I have been enjoying some other games. That's why I haven't been playing too much World of Warcraft, at least, past my weekly and daily chores. So right now, I'm actually playing a lot of Anthem, which is in early access right now. It releases pretty soon, I think. I think it's on the 22nd, but I'm just having a blast with it. It is really enjoyable, and whenever I go onto WoW to get one of my daily chores done, I'm kind of like, I could do this quicker, let's do this quicker so I can get back to Anthem. But that's what I've been distracted with recently. It is a completely different type of game compared to WoW, so if something like WoW is what you're interested in, Anthem probably isn't going to do it for you, but it is a really enjoyable game so far from what I've played. And I've seen quite a few comments recently where it's like, WoW is dead, are you going to cover any other game? WoW is dead, let's jump off this sinking ship while we can. And while I completely disagree that World of Warcraft is dead, I might end up making some other videos about certain games, especially Anthem. It all depends, it really does, because I need to enjoy a game to really want to put the effort forth into making videos about a game, and I have a really, really short attention span when it comes to video games. If you see me hopping around alts, you'll kind of get the reason why. If I get bored of WoW specifically, I'll start hopping alts very quickly, very often, and that's kind of how you notice that kind of thing. But for games specifically, I get bored really quickly, I do, and if Anthem doesn't hold my attention all too long, then I won't be making videos about it because I won't be playing it anymore. That's the big thing about World of Warcraft and why I still make videos about World of Warcraft, is because I play it every week. I play it almost every day, and this has been going on for years and years now, and I'm still not completely bored with it. So I'll keep making WoW videos pretty much no matter what it looks like, unless they burn the servers down, but I might touch on some other games to go along with it. Anthem, if it manages to hold my attention. So far, the story's been really good, the leveling has been good, the gameplay is really fun, the flying around and the exploring and the ability-based combat instead of the gunplay. I know a lot of people might not like that as much because they want to play a shooter for the shooting, but I'm not too great at that. I'm not a shooter. So, you know, I kind of like the ability-based gameplay, and it is really enjoyable. So, one of the main worries people had is endgame, and I do worry about this a little bit myself from what I've played so far. The endgame might be a little scarce, and we might actually end up getting bored fairly quickly, depending on how things go. But as I said, this game hasn't even released yet. It's in early access right now. Well, not early access, it's early release for EA Premier or whatever it was we signed up for. So, it hasn't released yet. We're not quite at max level, we're having fun so far. If we continue to have fun, you'll probably see a few videos about a new game. So if that's something you're interested in, cool. If it's not, World of Warcraft videos will still be there as well. Now, it was actually pretty funny last week when we did one of these videos with my face. Shock horror, I know, but it was really interesting reading some of the comments, especially the ones saying I'm a lot younger than what they thought, or my voice doesn't match up with my face and all this stuff, which makes me wonder, like, how young do you think I look? Because I'm not that young. I'm not that young. And how old do you think I sound? Because, I don't know. You tell me. But there were some really weird comments which were, you know, I didn't think you were this young. Sorry, I didn't understand you were a kid. I'm unsubbing. That's a bit weird, but okay. Bye. It's a bit weird putting my face up to begin with, that's why I haven't done it all too often, even though there have been videos of it before. It's not like last week was the first time I put my face in the video, but I guess new people are coming all the time, new people to the channel, new subscribers, all that jazz, and new people, I guess, see my face for the first time every week, so hello! It's hopefully not that weird. We might do it more often. I was hoping to make it a bit more of a weekly thing for this kind of discussion video where I probably just blab and blab and blab, because honestly I'm really bad at that, and that's why I end up scripting a lot of my videos. Right now these videos aren't scripted, and you can probably tell, but that's besides the point. I was hoping to do something like this maybe around about once a week. We'll see how it goes. I know some people have said, you know, on some other videos, you know, why did you get rid of the face cam? Are you putting face cam back in videos? You know, what's going on with the face cam? Right now we'll see. I don't feel like it's suitable for every single video, so you know, it's just going to depend on the video type, whether I think I can get away with scripting it or not, and we'll just kind of see how things go from there. So you might see more videos with facecam, you might see less videos with facecam. Let me know what you think. But that's it for this video. I hope you all have a wonderful week, get some good loot from your boxes on reset day, get some good loot from bosses on reset day, I guess, but either which way. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.